Welcome to the Future of Less Work, where we uncover how work is transforming one conversation at a time. I'm Nirit Cohen, and today's episode is about what we can and cannot see when it comes to productivity. For decades, productivity has been treated like a black box. We've measured hours, tracked attendance, assumed output would follow. But as work has become more distributed, hybrid, digital, and fluid, those old signals just don't tell us enough anymore. So we need a new kind of system, maybe new data, which is why I'm really excited about today's conversation with Sam Naficy, CEO of Prodoscore. Every quarter, Prodoscore analyzes data from over 14,000 employees at more than 150 US companies, not self-reported surveys, but live behavioral indicators, how people collaborate when they're engaged, how AI tools shape their day, and even burnout might be setting in the data and how we see it, right? That provides us real-time lens into how work actually happens across roles, teams, industries, and maybe even time zones. So today's episode will try to understand what we can measure, what we can't, and what we know about what's really happening underneath the surface. Sam, welcome to the Future of Less Work.
Nirit, good morning. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with that foundation, the data. What exactly do you measure?
We measure at a core level productivity, engagement, collaboration for employees, agnostic of geography, in office, remote, hybrid. In the new world we live in, we try to engage all those aspects of what the employer looks at and what the employees engage with.
So what does productivity mean? How do you define productivity?
So in the new world we live in, that got expedited because of COVID, what we feel like the employees want and crave flexibility, and the employers want what we call accountability. What are measuring sticks to provide both kind of forums, what they crave for and covet? Flexibility for the employee, productivity for the employer, and accountability for the employer.
So I want to work from anywhere, but you need to know I'm working and getting things done.
Correct. So we capture all of the activity and engagement with all the cloud tools that an average employee uses. So in my daily scope of work, Sam, I use email. I may use some form of a CRM, let's call it Salesforce, hypothetically. I may use some kind of telephony, Ring Central, Vonage, Dialpad for my phone system. I may use Slack to chat with my colleagues. If I'm in sales, I may use LinkedIn Navigator to access people's information on LinkedIn. If I'm at the call center or customer service teams in that organization, I may use Zendesk or ServiceNow for my ticketing. If I'm the engineering department and writing code, I may use Gira or GitHub or Jira for all that. We capture all of those tools.
So you're pouring in all my interactions with my digital tools into this space and then analyzing productivity. And I want to ask you, okay, what you're getting though is busy work. So yeah, I'm, interacting with my tools. How do you know that that's productivity?
Great question. So I've been a CEO for almost 30 years in this role and a prior company. I believe, and I think many in my cohort believe, that a leading indicator to outcomes is activity. I firmly believe, not redundant or ineffective activity, but activity usually breeds a great outcome. So we believe these are activity-driven metrics, but we do certainly look at gamification issues, right? So it's not just for the sake of activity that we're looking at. We're looking at the quality of activity. So I'll give you an example. For example, we measure sales departments, activity and productivity. And if you have a group of inside salespeople and we measure calendar time for them, how much on their calendars are there invites that include internal meetings versus external meetings?
Okay, so that's no longer just the calendar, but it's the content of the calendar.
So in this, my calendar today has Sam and Nirit meeting today for this podcast. So I get credit for that calendar time in my calendar, but for an external meeting. So if I'm an inside salesperson, I'd like my inside sales folks to have 80% of their activity be external. If they're meeting all day internally, there's a problem with that, right? That activity is not that germane to the outcomes of their work, for example. So we look at that as one small measuring barometer of saying inside sales should have the following metrics to be productive. One of the areas that are
Hold on, let me ask you a question. So you said we grew up in a generation that thinks of activity as a prerequisite to outcome, right? I don't think, though, we've ever had such an insight into the level of activity that you're now able to collect. Do you think managers know what to do with this, to properly interpret this, to understand the difference between, like you said, even grasp the idea that if you're a salesperson, I actually want most of your work to be outward facing, or do you think they know what to do with that?
So look, because it's a new category, right? It's a new category that needs education from
Yeah.
us as a supplier of the technology to educate the cohorts and the end users. And they're getting familiar. So we have different users that use it differently, right? So it's really, really important. We're providing an unbelievable granular data to the end user. Now it's for them to begin using it differently. So the employee, for example, the reason we're so differentiated is we're very employee centric. So the employee gets their own Prodoscore dashboard. So they wake up in the morning and they log into Prodoscore and see their dashboard and how they compare with their colleagues in the exact same role. So we're not comparing inside sales to the developers and to the customer success team. We're just comparing customer success to customer success. So if I'm in a
So
department,
someone created the indicators that define what productivity means for customer success employees. And now
exactly.
I see how I get feedback about how I'm doing, not just my manager. So you're basically saying it's not just about giving managers the tools to control, it's also giving people the tools to understand themselves.
Completely. And what is success and how do we replicate success? So if I'm in a group of 10 people in my department, what is the guy or lady that's doing well and performing well? What are they doing? How can I replicate my performance to them? We call that a blueprint for success. What does the blueprint for success look like? And me as an employee that wants to be a good employee, how do I replicate good? One of the issues that corporate America has had for decades has been what is good and how do we replicate it? We've never had a blueprint for that. We've had
So
out.
that's, I actually think that's fascinating, because one of the biggest conversations we're having, right, about remote and hybrid and flexibility and autonomy is the fear of losing control, of not understanding what employees are doing. Frankly, let's admit it, right? Are they working sufficiently, or are they just doing other things? You're giving us a tool to basically have a better look at it. Can you give me an example of a company that did something interesting with this?
Correct. So I'm going to take a step back before I give you the example. So
Okay.
one of the things we look at is active time. So the duration that an employee is working, and within that time frame, how much of it is active time?
What's active?
So that they're functioning they're actually working in the tools and getting things done. So we see an extra hour, 20 minutes of active time for hybrid and remote employees versus in office. So
And you
let's say
don't think that that's like gaming the system? So because it's like the mouse pad you can buy on Amazon that shows your mouse is moving. And I also read somewhere that people are logging into shared docs to just put in a comment or throw in something that it looks like they're working.
So we're not doing any of that. Remember, we're not capturing mouse clicks or URLs or cameras. We're only capturing the API tools that the employee has been provided by the company. We're all based on your email for the workforce, not your personal information, not on your calendar that you're taking your daughter to a volleyball practice. We're only capturing work-related information. And for us, it's not gamification because there's a very simple reason the remote or hybrid employee has an hour extra for what we call active time. Commute to work. They're not commuting. The average commute is an hour and 7 minutes.
So
They're much
basically saying the manager's calling their employees back to the office. You're saying, look, it's that hour commute they're going to put it into work if you just let them.
unequivocally, unequivocally. I myself, look, I'm still in the old school that believe there should be hybrid. We should still be in the office 2, 3 days a week. Let's call it the 3-2-4-1, whatever you do. But
Yeah.
the employers that are mandating full return to office are having huge backlash. And our data proves that. Our data unequivocally proves you get more productivity in the hybrid versus full in office. No doubt about it. And you asked about employer, giving you an example of an employer. So we have very large employers that are using it, Prodoscore, as a function of providing the hybrid work. So if you want to be 3-2 or 4-1, whatever the choice of days are, you've got to opt into Prodoscore. If you're opt into Prodoscore and log in, you're allowed to be that 3-2 or 4-1. So it's a tool that the employer uses and the employees love it. So we have a large customer that started with 300 employees with us. Now they're up to 7,000 employees, all on Prodoscore. They're saving
Okay.
2 hours a day on commute alone.
So you actually, from your data, I know that you issue this pulse report, right? And I actually looked at your Q1 pulse report, and it has some really interesting insights that I'm actually curious, not to tell you what I thought was surprising, but what surprised you?
The biggest issue I think we face as the C-suite, the biggest issue is the lack of understanding of collaboration with our teams. So because we're remote and not in office, we're not getting lunch together. We're not in meetings together. We're not having a beer after work. Just the simple collaboration, the culture building of the organization is in a blind spot, right? Even with me, I'm running a 70-person company. It's small, but we're all hybrid. We have no office. We're fully remote. We're distributed. To me, the data we capture, what we call organizational network analysis, and showing
Who's
real
talking to who, where, how, on what?
and at all times. It is remarkably powerful. And
Yeah.
I give a couple of examples, Nirit, that are just mind-blowing. So a company wants to fire Sam. No problem. We fire Sam. We save his payroll. Wonderful. What happens to the ripple effect of all the people Sam communicates with every day? Do you know when Sam is fired, what happens to the entire organization around him, above him, beneath him? We
Yeah,
show that.
I think what you're pointing out, and I've done network analysis with organizations actually a really long time ago, when we just started having the tools to do that, right? And you basically saying, okay, there's the org chart, the formal structure, and then there's the informal structure. There are people that you don't even know that they're nodes on the network, and everybody goes to ask a question, or that
Exactly.
they distribute knowledge, or have ripple effects, right? And
Completely.
that's something they can see now.
And we do it not with surveys or conversations with employees. We do it with actual data.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the difference. So we're capturing all of the Slack communication in an organization. Think about it. Every single communication of every node of every employee is being captured. Every email and calendar invite is Nirit on Sam's invites 3 times a week. And if Nirit is gone or Sam is gone, what happens to Nirit? I mean, there's an unbelievable data we do. And then we talk about collaborators. So our middle managers better be collaborating. And what if they're not?
So Sam, it's almost like, okay, so my mind is going in all these directions. If I had access to all this data, I wouldn't even know where to start. There's so much stuff you can do with it. How do you turn this into value for managers, or coaching tools for employees, or value for HR, or
so
senior
look,
management?
so I give this, I've been in software for a long time. And most software companies have so many convoluted things they provide. I'll give you an example. The big elephant in the space is Salesforce. They have thousands of modules. An average VP of sales uses 4 of them. I have a Monday morning meeting with my CRO, and he presents to me 4 or 5 modules, pipeline review, new creations, MQLs. That's all I review. Salesforce provides hundreds of these. We're the same. We provide an inordinate amount of data. The idea is to truncate it for the middle manager, truncate what the HR folks need, and then we do a Friday evening report for the C-suite. We give you a report to the CEO of what the organization looks like, captured in one PDF. We summarize the world. So I give you a couple of examples.
Please.
The HR person may use our tool for 360 reviews. Historically, 360 reviews have been horrible, in my opinion. I like you. We go to lunch. You get a 5, you get a bonus, you get a promotion. Today, we can do 360 reviews with Prodoscore, all with objective data. So I could show you everything that's
Okay, hold on. But that's just, again, activity. I
which I
could be conversing with you, but fighting with you in the content, right? It could be a very non-productive conversation.
right, but I'm comparing you to your peers. So even if I'm gamifying, as you say, or I'm comparing you to this, going back to the customer service team, I'm comparing you to the 10 people in the CS team. When I'm your manager and I'm reviewing you, I have all of your cohorts, everyone in your identical role. And I could say, Sam, you're doing a good job. You're going to get a promotion because how you compare to the employee blueprint for success. So before there
Who
was no,
creates the blueprint for success for a department?
the manager could look at his team, the 10 people on his team, and then marry our data with outcomes. So, for example, the customer success team, we look at tickets closed, tickets opened, duration of those tickets. Am I figuring out tier one support? Obviously does 50 tickets a day. It's easier tickets to close. Tier three may close 2 tickets a day. He's doing a lot more complex work. The manager knows all of that. So, for example, in that scenario, for 360 reviews, our data becomes invaluable for the HR department. Then another role, the CEO role, for example, we highlight employees at risk of attrition.
How?
Not perfect. So,
So I dropped my number of people I'm engaged with, the number of times I open my communication channels.
so I'll tell you a data you will love. We have 94% accuracy to tell you 3 months before an employee quits that they will quit.
How much? 94%?
94% accuracy.
Tell me what you're looking at.
We're looking at their activity falling off a cliff. So it could, by the way, it's not
So
punitive. And this is
disengagement, basically. You see disengagement.
massive disengagement is a 94% precursor to an attrition risk in 90 days. Now, we very much put this in not a punitive scenario because I could have my wife could be sick and I'm
Yeah.
disengaged. So the
Yeah.
issue for the manager to see that and engage the employee. Hey, Sam, are you okay? Is everything okay at home? Or are you on LinkedIn looking for another job? It's a coaching tool to
So
engage.
hold on. Okay. So I have my HR hat on and it's
By
burning
the
for
way,
a
I love
second
this
because
conversation.
yeah, because I'm thinking, all right, people are really smart. They understand what you're looking at and what you're measuring, and then they figure out ways to doctor the system. That's how it works. So you get what you measure, right? We say that. After the first time that a manager comes to an employee and says, I noticed, is everything okay, right?
Right.
I'm going to buy that mouse moving mouse pad and make sure, I go into some documents and key in some questions every, few hours just to make sure that nobody notices that I'm disengaged.
But we don't do that, Nirit. We don't capture mouse clicks. We're not
Yeah, okay,
capturing.
I just used mouse clicks
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's,
But again, it's not in a vacuum. This is the distinction. We're comparing you to your peers. So
yeah. And you're also really, I mean, it's really hard to work around this because you're looking at the entire suite
all of
of,
it. So let's say on your
of tools.
calendar, yeah, let's say you put fake meetings on your calendar. Hypothetically, to fill your calendar bucket of
Yeah, I
Protoscore,
blocked it. It looks
block it.
blocked.
But
Yeah.
there's got to be a counterparty, for example.
Okay.
We need a
Blocked it without a
so
counterparty is
you got
not
to put
me.
Nirit. Sam's got to block his calendar and put Nirit on it. I got to jump on the Zoom meeting because I'm capturing the Zoom data. So I got to be on the meeting. Nirit's got to log in. I mean, you got to have a full conspiracy going on the
Yeah, yeah,
calendar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Then
you
when
can't block a calendar because you see it's not a meeting.
not a meeting, you got to have
Can't
you got to
chat
have
with
a counterparty.
yourself and you can't log fake
Correct. And you
events.
can't send Slack to just somebody. It's got to have it, it becomes very difficult. So when you have we capture emails, Slack, telephony, Jira, GitHub, Zendesk, ServiceNow. You can't be putting all of that fake. It
So,
becomes
Sam, how do people feel about this, though? It is
they
kind of Big Brother. I mean,
so let me ask you a question because I love this conversation. 25 years ago, I was reluctant when my VP of sales came to me and said, there's a new thing called Salesforce. Oh my God, my salespeople are going to hate it. What are you watching their pipeline? Leave them alone. They're on their handbooks and their Excel. Salesforce is what it is today. I'll give you one more example. 7 years ago, a company came out and said, I'm going to record sales calls. I'm going to transcribe sales calls. I was mortified. That company is an $11 billion business called Gong today. Every real company in America uses Gong, including my little tiny company uses Gong. My 6 salespeople that were hired in January all said, do you have Gong? We can't live without it. So good employees love Prodoscore. They find it fascinating. Bad ones don't like it.
Yeah, because it's hard to be a bad one and hide, basically.
And the idea is use it as a great adjunct to your daily work. It's meant to empower you. If I'm a good employee, I want to see the best salesperson I could replicate. So we do another thing. Onboarding usually takes 90 days for most companies to onboard. We have a 45-day onboarding. We expedite onboarding because we have a blueprint for success. My number one sales guy is a guy named Jake. He's a legend at Prodoscore. In our little company, he's a legend. Every new hire, we put him on his blueprint for success. What did Jake do his first 90 days? Let's replicate that in 45. Think about it. If I unwrap an employee half the time, he's produced and the employee's making more commissions.
Yeah, it's even bigger than that. I mean, we know this we always say learn from mistakes, but actually learn from successes, learn from how the best people do things is definitely a strong one. Okay, we've gone 20 whole minutes without talking about AI. So I actually looked at your data and you had this statement there. I looked at it and I said, okay, does this surprise me? What does it mean? So employees using AI are more productive. I almost want to say, duh. Okay, in what way?
Right. So we see when employees use any of the AI tools, we see a significant spike in their productivity by
defined
writing more emails that are productive, being able to answer questions if you're in a customer service team, if you're writing code for your development team, using AI tools that help you expedite.
So more activity per unit of time or something like that.
100%.
Okay.
The interesting thing, Nirit, is going to be in a year or two, we need to measure the AI tools for productivity. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
How productive is the AI tool itself in a vacuum? I'm getting chills thinking about that. Right?
Yeah. Actually, Microsoft in their latest report talked about number of tools per employee.
Correct.
So the ratio.
Correct.
Of people with agents.
How many agents do you need if you're replacing 10% of your customer service team by AI? What does that AI tool functionality look like and productivity for them?
Yeah, no, actually, I'm referring to personal productivity. So if I'm using 10 agents and you're using 2, right? Is 10 too much? Is 2 not enough?
Correct.
What's going on here?
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the next couple of years, what that will evolve into. And the amount of money we're spending on each employee's tools. How often are they using them? So currently, an average employee gets about $1,000, $1,100 of tools given to them, right? Salesforce at $200, email at this, whatever, all the tools they use. Companies don't have a clue of how many of those licenses are being used. We provide real analytics on every license you pay for and every employee using those licenses and the unused licenses that are wasted.
Yeah, that's probably in general. Since you're using it all, looking at all the tools and the usage, you can see what's being used. What about where the data revealed blind spots or maybe even changed someone's mind? Do you have examples like that?
Yeah, look, we have a very large law firm, one of the largest law firms in the United States. All 5,500 employees are on the platform. Lawyers, paralegals, associates, everybody's on the platform. They gave us their outcomes. So we married the leading indicator activity where we started this conversation. They provided their outcomes. And there was an unbelievable correlation with activity and what I call active time and billable hours.
Okay, so you basically, what you're saying is we've proven the assumption that I asked you about in the beginning, which is you're measuring activity. How do you know that's productivity? And you told me, it just is, right? Because
correct.
It's
that's an example of it. Again, proved our thesis. And I think, again, the point being that they saw billable hours spike for those more productive, as we define it, more productive employees. We've remained agnostic on outcomes on purpose because every company is different. A lawyer is different than an engineer. Engineer is different than a customer service. Sales is different. So we've left the outcome business to the end user.
So you basically tell me what your productivity, what productivity means for you, and I'll give you the data to look at it.
Exactly. So we have a huge data science team, and we're building that every week. We're adding to it. And we believe that consultative role of marrying outcomes and productivity, as we define it, is the holy grail, is what this industry will become in the next couple of years.
Yeah, actually, that's why I really wanted to talk to you, because I think that one of the basic issues with the ability to allow employees the flexibility or the autonomy they're looking for is this trust. It's like we tell managers trust. It's like, okay, I'm running $1 billion company here. Trust is not an answer, right? I need something more. I need to know what the organization is doing, that the machine's working. And we used to do that just by walking the corridors and the meetings and the conference room with the PowerPoint presentations. And the buildings are empty. And the conference rooms are, well, they're kind of weird because they have no walls, and so they become endless, right? But you're basically offering a solution to provide the visibility into what work looks like when you're doing it without occupying a building.
Correct. Look, I think we're going to be the fiber, the glue that keeps an organization afloat in this hybrid world. I think you need tentacles to connect you. And we believe, what better way to do that by the granular data that your staff is using every day in the scope of their work. You don't see
What's something you can't do?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Great question of what we can't do.
I'm thinking out the soft stuff. We talked about engagement as defined by activity cliff, right? Dropping. But
culture building is a struggle for all companies that are hybrid or remote.
Yes.
Right. So we believe what I said about collaboration, the organizational network analysis, helps with culture building.
Yeah.
For example, a lot of companies that are acquiring other companies. Let's say you're in the roll-up phase and are acquiring a new business. We are acquiring a new business today. We're in the process of acquiring a new company that's got about another 50 employees.
Mm-hmm.
They're in Canada, they're in India, they're in Houston. I'm going to have to integrate that business, right?
Yeah,
so,
I spent a decade in M&A.
I love it. I'm telling you, you'd have a great role here, by the way, Nirit. It's the smartest conversation I've had in any podcast. I promise you.
Wow.
I'm dead serious. This is amazing. This is amazing. I love this. I could talk to you for weeks. I can learn from you. But the reason I'm saying that is, so how do I integrate the culture of the people?
Yeah.
How do I know that they're embedded in our organization? One of the tools we provide that will help us and other organizations is what I call that collaboration, the O&A network. So who is in the Canadian group talking to the Prodoscore's existing base? How are they not on an island there? Hey, we bought you. I'm the new boss, but you're sitting in Canada. I need to make sure they're embedded. So one of the things we do is through the software I mentioned, but I'm also a big in-person CEO still. I believe offsites are critical to build culture. So it's a combination of software tools like ours, offsite meetings and getting everybody together and having the dinners and the lunches and building that culture. So I don't believe tools alone like us. You said, what do we not do? We don't build culture. Culture is still an obligation of the company to do it in their own way. Right. So here.
But what you're getting me to think about, so I did spend a decade in M&A, and I'm thinking, if I'm an integration manager and you basically tell me that you've got all this data, right, then I know what I would set up as my dashboard in the first 90 days to see in terms of, are we building the bridges? Are we doing the translations? Are the right people connecting with the right people? Absolutely. So basically having the data opens a whole new set of capabilities. So I'm curious about, one more thing in terms of data. So I call this podcast The Future of Less Work, not because I think that, AI will take our jobs, or there will be no work. But I think we should actually be doing less of what doesn't matter and more of what does, right? Are you seeing anything in that space of what people are working on and what they're letting go of? Or is it too soon?
It's probably too soon, but I don't know if it's the future of less work, but a future of more effective work, right? And we talked about it 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, about AI helping us be more effective, more productive. So if I can use ChatGPT hypothetically and be or more effective, am I working less or am I working more effectively?
Yeah, I could have a whole conversation with you
Conversation
just
around
on
that.
that, because
I
I
agree.
do believe that this isn't a world where it's only about AI making employees more effective so that they can do more and the company benefits. I actually think people are, as opposed to old technology that the company owned and it was very expensive and we trained people. AI is 20, 40, 60, $80 tools that people have usually trained themselves on at this point in time. And it's a kind of a bring your own and bottom up. And it's starting to come up from the top, but it's still very early stages. And so I'm not sure people are willing to say, I became twice as productive and therefore I'm going to work twice as hard for you and I get no benefit from that. I actually think a lot of the quiet trends have taught us that people wanted different. Not sure I like the word balance, but to think of differently about where work ends and life begins, and how they integrate in a new way than how we thought about it in the past.
I don't disagree. I've got two college kids and I see what the next generation is looking at and how they view work, right? And maybe the generation like us and me being an immigrant, there was a whole different work ethic, right? Versus what my kids are looking to do. And the new work environment, no question. I think that conclusion is still being written out. And I think it will in the next 2, 3, 5 years. I don't
Yeah.
know where it's going to go, but I think it's
Yeah.
something to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So as we kind of get ready to wrap up, I actually want to ask you for a question, not an answer. So actually, what do you think is the question we should all be asking ourselves about the future of work?
I go back to what I started. I think, what can we do to provide the flexibility to the employee that comforts them in this new world we live in and provides the accountability that the employer wants? What's that balance, right? And can we use data in that quest? Not a blind come back to the office 5 days a week. This is the edict. Come to the office. But the reality is employees want flexibility, period. That's for sure. And the employers want accountability. What can we do to bridge that gap in a healthy way? Not a punitive big brother surveillance way, in a healthy way that's engaged for the employee and benefits the employer.
Yep, absolutely. I call this a win-win, right? For people and organizations. Wow. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Sam, for joining me today. For more about Sam and Prodoscore, check out the links in the podcast description. We'll also put a link to the Q1 Productivity Pulse report. Thank you for joining the Future of Less Work. And remember, on that last note that Sam asked about the future, right? Your best people do not work because you tell them to. They do not work because you measure them on it. They work because by working for you, they're achieving their own purpose in life. Till next time.